Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It's Wednesday evening. Hump Day is upon us and nearly done, which means that Saturday football is nearly back. And this Saturday, top of the table Gills take on Derek Adams, Morecambe. For the first time in a couple of seasons, Gills dropped out of League One 2 seasons back, and Morecambe have decided to come and join us again. Pleased to say that I'm joined by the voice of Morecambe Football Club on match days, and that is Dave Salmon. You can find him on Twitter at DP Salmon. I will put his handle in the description at the bottom of this video. So, Dave, first of all, hope you're good and appreciate you coming on.
No problem, Matt. Thanks for the invite. Always great to chat, mate.
It is, yeah. And obviously, it'd be nice if we can maybe talk again in League One in a couple of seasons.
Yes, it would be, wouldn't it? Yes. We dream, we live in hope.
Such is life. We will make do with what we've got and use them cards that have been dealt to us at the moment. Let's have a look at form to start with, because we can do last six now, which I think is always a decent barometer of what's going on. Gills have picked up 1, 2, 3, 4 wins in the last half dozen, all by 1-0, unsurprisingly. And in between that, there's been 2 defeats, a 3-0 home reverse against Colchester United and that horrible 2-0 defeat at Blundell Park against Grimsby a couple of Saturdays ago. Morecambe, solid start so far. First game of the season at home, beat Walsall 2-1. There's been an away defeat at Mansfield, creditable draw against Notts County, a very good win at home by 3-0 against Bradford, slightly disappointing reverse at Harrogate, who we played most recently, and then a narrow 1-0 win against Salford. No game for you last week, though, Dave, I believe, because of international call-ups for yourself and or Barrow, such as the big-time life of League Two football. You currently sit 14th with 10 points from a possible 18, which surely represents a solid start.
It's a really, really solid start. It was just us with the international call-ups, Matt, by the way. Five of them in total. And five of them in total. I mean, we are big time, we're massive and all that. And we were actually the only team in League Two to have a game postponed because of international call-ups last weekend. But, there you go. The problem we have is the enormous gulf between our home and away form. It's as simple as that.
I've got some notes on that. I've got some notes on the away form.
Yeah, indeed. We are great at home, and all 10 of our league points have come in those 4 home games. A great draw against Notts County, and then 3 great wins against Walsall and Bradford and Salford. But our 2 away trips have been absolutely ones to forget, to be honest with you. We deserve to be thrashed far more than the 3-0 that Mansfield put past us. And then Harrogate, it was slightly one of those games where we had a really dodgy penalty awarded, we had a player sent off, and it just wasn't going to go our way. But we didn't deserve anything from the game either, if we are perfectly honest. So it's the away form, really, that we desperately need to sort out. But I think before a ball was kicked, if you would have said to any Morecambe fan, you're going to have 10 points on the board from the opening 6 games, we would have absolutely have bitten your arm off. We really would. So I think overall, away form aside, we are pretty happy at the moment, yeah.
Let's talk about it then, because, if you break down your results so far, it's in terms of being at home, like you say, it's 10 points from 12. It's 6 goals scored and only 1 conceded. But the flip side of that is 2 away games. It's no goals scored, no points and 5 conceded. So I wanted to talk about the manager, but we'll park that for a minute and let's talk about that away form. I know we spoke on your podcast a couple of days ago. I did a little bit more digging. So, 2 defeats from 2 on the road this season, we've already mentioned. If you go back to the start of 21-22, you might want to mute this, Morecambe fans.
Do we have to, Matt? Do we have to?
48 games played, 5 wins, 10 draws, 33 defeats with a -64 goal difference. So that equates to 25 points on the road from the last 144 points available. I guess my big question is obviously a concern. You've brought it up. If that continues, that probably stops any type of promotion push, doesn't it? Because you're not going to win every home game. I know they say if you win your home games and draw your away games, you're going to be there or thereabouts, but it's putting so much pressure on your home form at the Mizuno that surely something has to give.
It does. I would say for a lot of the games when we were in League One for the 2 seasons, we were going to some footballing giants, relatively speaking. You know, Sheffield Wednesday, your Ipswiches, your Derbys, Barnsleys, etc., etc. So it wasn't a fair contest in a lot of our away trips, and we had some really, really good days out as well. You know, from Gillingham's time in League One, there's some great sides in the 3rd tier, but it's an absolute mystery, Matt. Complete and utter mystery, and I think if Derek Adams could solve it, then we would be in a much happier place. It's indescribable, the gulf between our home and away form. And since Derek took over, you spoke about the stats there. Derek's presided over 32 away league games since he retook charge from Stephen Robinson back in February last year, and we've got 16 points, 0.5 points per game. That does you absolutely no favours at all in terms of a league position. You speak about promotion there, Matt. I think that would be very, very previous to suggest that we were thinking along those terms at all. I think before a ball was kicked in the summer, given everything, our financial problems and and the recruitment and everything else, I think if we were realistic, and this isn't being pessimistic in any way, this is just a dose of realism, I think, anything above 22nd in the table would be a successful season for us. We can't get too carried away because of the start that we've had. It's still very early days, of course, but the conundrum that is our away form is very concerning, to say the least. What's it down to? A number of factors, I think. Obviously, a lot of it must be psychological, because you can't be a great team that play Bradford off the park 3-0 at home one week and look $1 million, and then go away to Harrogate 7 days later and not turn the same 11, then doesn't turn up. It doesn't make any sense. It's got to be psychological. I think as long it's like any run, isn't it? It's like a winning run or a losing run. The longer it goes on, the harder it is to break. Yeah. So I think there is some psychological factors. Don't get me wrong, a lot of away games we have been second best to a better team. There's no question about that. And I think on the odd occasion as well, we've got our tactics or our formations a little bit wrong. I think Derek Adams has come in for a bit of criticism not in recent months, but in months gone by, about perhaps going away from home and playing too defensively and having 5 defenders and 2 holding midfielders in the starting 11. And then you're almost setting up not to lose from the very start and perhaps not giving yourself the best chance of winning. I don't know. I mean, Derek would say there's more than one way to win a game of football, and obviously he's in charge, and his record speaks for itself, doesn't it? But it's a conundrum which we haven't solved, and going into an away game against a top of the table, it's a little bit worrying, that's for sure.
Yeah, of course, that's natural. And just to go back to your point, then obviously, because we've said, I said it on your podcast, you said it on this one already, and we'll say it again. It's a very embryonic table, but you're averaging 2.5 points per game at home. That's as good as anything that's around at the moment. So I suppose the big concern is obviously if the home form does fall off, then you've got some real problems, because then suddenly you're going to be in a relegation battle if the away form continues as it has done for the best part of 2 years, which is a big. It's not like it's a small chunk of form, that is it. That's 2 years of horrendous away form.
Absolutely. We're not going to win every home game. You're dead right, Matt. We are going to go through a sticky spell. So we need to sort it out. How we do that, I don't know. Well, I think we've tried pretty much everything really to get to the bottom of it. I think what we need is one away win to sort of kickstart us. And we have played against the odds in the past and had great wins against the odds, but it needs to come sooner rather than later, that's for sure. And if it's on Saturday, that would be all the better, really. But it can't go on. It has to turn around at some point, doesn't it? Surely, surely.
Just not this week. Just not this week. Let's talk about Derek Adams then. You've mentioned him. He's in his second spell now. He's managed around 150 games across the 2 spells. But again, there's a vast difference between the win percentage the first time and the second time. I understand different leagues. So, like you say, you're going to places like Sheffield Wednesday, Portsmouth, that type of things, as opposed to going to places like, no disrespect to Forest Green, that type of thing, or teams that are struggling at the bottom of League Two. So that obviously has an effect. but yeah, 43% win ratio first time around, only 23% the second time, and that sort of ties in with how he was at Bradford in between times as well. But what's Derek Adams standing amongst the Morecambe fan base at the moment? Because we all know of the first time getting you promoted into the third tier for the first time in your history. Last season, first time you've ever suffered relegation, I do believe. Obviously, he's at least part culpable for that. He's involved, the same as way as we said that Neil Harris was at least part culpable for a team that only scored 6 goals in half a season. Everyone has to take responsibility to a degree. So what's the general overview amongst the fan base at the moment of Derek Adams? Doing a good job, could do better, or under pressure, or
under no pressure whatsoever, I don't think, Matt. I think his stock amongst the fan. I think I think his stock amongst the fan base is very high at the moment, and like you say, it has been a fluctuating pattern. It's been up and down. It's been a bit roller coaster. First, obviously, spell get promotion. He's a hero, build a statue, etc., etc. Get into the third tier for the first time in our history, and everything is good. We didn't begrudge Derek at all going on to, I don't like using the phrase bigger and better things, but that's what it was at Bradford, far bigger club than Morecambe. Yeah. And we wished him all the best when he left. It obviously didn't work out. And the stars all aligned, really, with Stephen Robertson leaving to go back to Scotland and to St Mirren, and then Derek leaving Bradford at a very similar time. So it kind of made sense, really, to come back. He kept us in League One in the first season. Not many away points, but we got enough points in the bag to survive on that. And obviously you went down, unfortunately, on that season. And then last season, we took it to the very last game of the campaign. It was looking really bleak for a very long time, I have to say. And then we had a good run in January, early February, and then we were just hovering there or thereabouts. And if we'd have won our last game of the season against Exeter, we would still be a League One club now. We lost 3-2 in the last game of the season, and that's what ultimately relegated us. So I think you're right. Derek, possibly to an extent, has to be a little bit culpable because he's the manager, the head coach of the team. Of course, that's the same with any football club, but I think what a lot of people don't realise or perhaps appreciate from the outside is the ridiculous situation going on behind the scenes and the backdrop of everything that Derek Adams and the squad and every single member of staff had to battle against in our second season in League One. Initially, even to be staying in business at the football club, I think, at certain times. But certainly the unrest off the field, it has to have that ripple knock-on effect into the club and into the on-field situations. And obviously that didn't help us either. Our financial problems, our ownership, our ongoing ownership issues, may I say, as well. And it all kind of added to the mix, really. So I think we were a bit disappointed that we couldn't quite stay up last season, but we've embraced life back in League Two, and given the meagre financial resources that he's had to put a brand new squad together, because we've had 16 new players through the door in the summer. We only had 6 players contracted. We had to let everybody go because of our financial situation, and many of those players we would have absolutely have wanted to offer a contract to, but we couldn't, because at the end of the season it was announced that we were having to operate in what they described as a break-even budget, which I think is a polite way of saying you ain't got a pot to pee in, basically. Mm-hmm. And so we couldn't offer anybody a contract who was out of contract, so they all had to go. Some of them would have stayed, absolutely, and we would have kept some of them, but we had to let everybody go, and 16 new faces through the door, a lot of youngsters as well. And I think, given everything, Derek's stock is probably about as high as it's ever been, actually, with most of the fan base.
Excellent stuff. There's so many parallels to Gills over the last couple of years. Like you speak about Derek Adams and that good run after Christmas and taking it to the final day. That sounds very much like Neil Harris's first 4 months in charge. He arrived and we were 10 points adrift and took it to the final day, which was a miracle in itself. And then plenty of financial restraints leading into last season, similar to what you're having to do now with Derek. Yeah, I think there's probably more similarities between the two clubs than we not care to admit. That's probably the wrong phrase, but probably think there actually are. Certainly now we've had the takeover, everyone thinks we're like billionaires and we're just going to buy our way to the title or something like that. But it's not being done that way. But yeah, obviously, just this is the idea of these chats, is to get a proper idea of what's going on with Morecambe from your fan perspective, because like you say, we can only do it and look from the outside in. You're getting it from very close to the club in the privileged position that you're in, which is brilliant, and that's why we try to get people like yourself on. You talk about transfers, Dave. You say 16. I worked it out to 15, so I might have missed one, but there's been plenty of permanents. I think you've used all 5 loans as well. There's some names I picked out based on one former player, one player that I thought was very good at the back end of last season in the playoffs for Carlisle, and obviously a player that started very well this season for you. So the 3 names I'm talking about are David Tatonda, ex-Gillingham left back, Disco Dave as he was affectionately known. Either looks like Roberto Carlos or looks like Robert Redford trying to play football, I'd imagine. There doesn't seem to be an in-between with Dave, but we absolutely loved him. Plays with his heart on his sleeve, plays on the edge a little bit. Yeah, like I say, you'll get 8 out of 10 or 4 out of 10 from Dave. There is no in-between. There's no 6s and 7s. Hasn't played a lot so far, seems to be being phased into the I think he's only played about half hour in total, I think. Joel Senior was the second one that I looked at, thought was very impressive when he got his chance in the playoffs for Carlisle. I was a little bit surprised they let him go, so that looks like a decent pickup. Another fullback. But the one that stands out is Michael Mellon, son of former Tranmere manager Mickey, who started like a train 3 and 6 in the league so far and 4 and 7 in all competitions. How have them 3 done so far? I know Dave's not played loads. And is there anyone else that we should be watching come Saturday afternoon?
Well, the reason David Tatonda's not featured much yet is because of the form of Joel Senior. Obviously,
he's playing the other side.
Yeah, he's a right. We had a bit of an issue with getting a left back in the summer, really. So it was an area where we were short. Joel Senior filled in there during pre-season and looked really good. He's right-footed, playing on the left, so obviously that has the limitations that you might imagine, but he's slotted in really well. I think he's one of our best players so far this season over on the left-hand side, and that's why Tatonda hasn't come in. I know he left Gillingham because he wasn't guaranteed first-team football. I think he was offered a deal, but wanted to move to somewhere where he was going to play. He's going to have to wait his turn. He will get a chance at some point because there'll be a suspension or an injury or a formation change. There'll be something somewhere. And when he gets his chance, he'll have to try and take it. He's looked okay in the 2 appearances since he's come off the bench, but he's only been, I think he played for 5 minutes and then 20 minutes against Harrogate, and that's been about the sum total of what he's played. He looked okay. Very early days, of course. Joel Senior, one of our better summer signings, I think, and one of the more experienced signings through the door as well. Now that sounds a bit strange. I think he's 24, I think he is. So given that that's relatively youthful, with the majority of our other signings being 19, 20 years old, he has been one of our more experienced players, but he's slotted in brilliantly and he's made the left back berth his own, really. So hopefully long may that continue. Bit of a battle for competition for places, hopefully. But Michael Mellon has really, really impressed. He's one of our 5 international call-ups. He got called up for Scotland under-21s squad eventually. A very late call-up, and he leads the line really well. He's our number 9. He's not very tall, but he's quite muscular and got quite a good physical presence. And boy, does he know where the net is. I think he's going to be one of those players for us. If we can give him the right service, he's going to score plenty of goals. I wouldn't like to make any Cole Stockton predictions or anything like that necessarily, but all of the goals that he scored for us so far have been excellent goals. Brilliant free kick into the bottom corner, a lovely turn away from his man and burying it across the keeper, and a nice poacher's close range finish for another goal and a penalty as well. So he's leading the line really well, but he's one of a teenage trio within our formation. Our forward 3 are all 19 years old, and our attacking midfielder just behind him is only 20. So we are trusting in youth, that's for sure. I think that's a deliberate tactic that the club have gone for this season, and so far it's working. But yeah, Michael Mellon certainly one to watch, and he'll give your defence a torrid time, that's for sure.
Yeah, certainly one to keep an eye on. As I say, that was the one that sort of jumped off the page straight away because you look at numbers, don't you, when you're looking at the internet? I mean, you can gauge performance and that when you watch games properly, and stats only go so far in terms of gauging how good people are. But yeah, 3 and 6, you're going along at it's 23 league goals if he carries on at that rate. You did mention who he was charged with replacing, and that is Cole Stockton. taking his shirt number as well, I believe. Is that correct? Was Cole number 9 as well? So,
Yeah,
which I think I've got no issue with players doing that. I think that shows that they're confident in their own ability and they want to go and do well. It is big shoes to fill. We know that Cole wasn't as good as the first season in League One last time around, but was still a massive part of what success you've had over the last few years. So it is a big void that's been left. Have you had to change the way you play the game now that you've got no Cole Stockton, or does Mellon have similar traits that means you can continue to play in a similar vein?
I would say similar. The one thing that we have focused on this season, Matt, is being very, very fit. And I think that's going to see us a long way during the course of the season. We are full of running in the very last minute, whether that's the 92nd or the 110th, depending on how much stoppage time there is. But I think there's a definite tactic this season of packing the players with youth and full of running. And I suppose, and I think Derek has mentioned this as well, is that young players perhaps absorb information and what the coaches are trying to drill into them, perhaps a little bit more than a more experienced player might, who's a bit more battle-hardened, shall we say. They've been around the block a bit more. And I think so far it's working out. We've got that teenage trio as our attacking three. We play roughly a 4-3-3 come 4-2-3-1 is our normal formation. I'd imagine we'll certainly be going along with that on Saturday, providing all of our international players have come back unscathed, which I think they have.
We should have done a tally, shouldn't we? Who was going to say international call-ups or top of the league more? Well, it's 4-2, I think, at the moment. So quick, Gills are still top of the league, 4-3.
But we've got Michael Mellon leading the line, and then you've got Adam Mayer on the left,
who I believe was called up for an international.
He was on standby for the England under-20s training camp. Right, okay. Which is quite a remarkable achievement, really, given the fact he's a League Two player, first and foremost, but given the fact that he's only really been a proper first-team player for less than a season. He's got about 45 games under his belt so far, something like that, but he's an absolute talent, real talent. Play on the left side, happy to come back and defend. He'll try and drive to the byline, get the crosses in, and be that supply line. And he's got a great rocket left-footed shot on him as well. So you'll need to give Adam Mayer close attention on the left, and then Tom Bloxham on the right, also 19 years old, on loan from Shrewsbury for the season. And he's tall. I think he's 6'6". I think he's really tall, but he's wide as well. And he's just a bulldozer down that right-hand side. He'll just run and run and run. Doesn't always come off, of course, because I suppose if you're a winger, you do get tackled out of it from time to time, but he'll keep going and he'll keep going. And Tom just needs a goal to settle him down as well. He's had a couple of chances which he probably should have put away, which he's missed. So I think if he can get a goal sooner rather than later, that would settle him down, and we can go on from there. But the three 19-year-olds up top is where we have gone this season. JJ McKiernan just in the number 10 in the attacking midfielder role, Northern Ireland under 21 international. Again, looks not the finished article by any means, and that's why he's with us. Used to be with Watford, had a spell on loan in non-league at I think it was Eastleigh last season, but looks a great prospect. Can pick a pass and happy to get forward and join the attack. Eli King on loan from Cardiff as well in more of a holding midfield role. So youth across the board, really, and I think that's the way we're going to go for the rest of the season.
An interesting battle, because I think obviously we're quite experienced fullback areas. Scott Malone, I'd imagine, would start. Shay Alexander the other side, that's 32 and 27. I think we'll probably be young centre-backs this week, not as young as your forward line, I think, because Maxima came out the side last week. So that'd be 25, sorry. Conor Masterson was 25 last weekend. And Shad Ogie, I think that'll be the two. So that'd be an interesting battle of the youths. Yeah, and then it depends how much experience. But just back to Stockton quickly, Dave. It was only because I read on Wikipedia, they said that style of play for Mellon was a physical striker capable of playing with his back to goal and with fine scoring instincts. Yeah. And I remember going back to the home game in League One when we beat you 2-1, and Cole Stockton was very good that day. I remember speaking to James Wakefield, and he just said that when Cole had the ball brought into his feet or his chest, it was almost like you could put a force field sort of 6 foot around him. You weren't getting anywhere near him, and you weren't getting the ball off him. So it was there were clear. There is, I suppose, it's probably part of the recruitment structure as well that Adams has gone right. We've had success playing this. Let's see if we can get someone else in that can do a similar job. And so far it is paying off.
Absolutely. I wouldn't disagree with that at all in terms of Michael's style of play. Still very raw, of course. He's only played about 20 senior games, something like that. Didn't score in his first spell on loan with us last season, and that was ended early when he dislocated his shoulder in, I think it was the end of January, and he had to go back, and that was the end of his season. So it's his second time with us, but he's come on another few steps since he was with us last season. He's grown a bit, he's got a bit wider, got a bit more streetwise as well, and I think, yeah, he could replicate Cole Stockton's style of play, that's for sure, but he's certainly going to be a handful for you on Saturday.
One battle to watch of many. Right, team news. I say this every week. We record on a Wednesday, so it's generally the day before the official press conferences are done. But in terms of Gills, I think Dom Jeffries will be out. He's recovering from a hamstring problem. I think he's probably another week or so away. Lewis Walker will be out with his knee, and so will Timmy Dieng. And I'm not sure Ollie Hawkins will be ready. He's missed all of the season so far. But I believe he is back on the grass, has been suffering with a horrible condition in his heel, which basically means he can't plant his foot. But we're in a much better position now. If we're missing 3 or 4 or 5, we've still got good players. So I'll do what I think our team will be, and then I'll let you run through what you think the Morecambe lineup will be. So I think obviously Jake Turner will be in goal for the Gills after keeping 5 clean sheets in 7. I can't see the back 4 changing after a clean sheet last week. So that'll be Shay Alexander, Connor Masterson, Shadrach Hogan, Scott Malone. I'd then make one change in the middle of the park if it was up to me. I'd bring Ethan Coleman back in to play alongside Sean Williams. I just think he gives us more mobility in the middle of the park. Robbie McKenzie, for me, has just been a little bit off the pace in the last couple of games. It's been a busy start for everyone, hasn't it? So there's going to be a degree of fatigue after, I think we've all played sort of 9-10 games in 6 weeks. I'd then make one more change further forward. George Lapsley got through an hour last week after missing a fortnight, but Harris has come out and said he was blowing after half an hour, so he did well to get through another 30 minutes. So for me, I'd drop him back to the bench. You don't want to risk a recurrence of any type of injury. I'd bring Jaden Clark back into the 11 from the side, Connor Mahoney to the other side, Johnny Williams in the 10. I think if we can get a player in there that takes care of the ball, I think we become an even bigger threat than if we play 2 up top and go direct really early. Macaulay Bonne, I'd persist with as a centre forward. He's yet to open his account, but like your away run, that has to end soon, and he's had a couple of half chances that have not quite gone his way. So yeah, that'd be my 11 for Gills. In terms of Derek Adams and how he's going to go, I'm assuming it's not going to be too different to last time out, which was that 1-0 win against Salford. You've mentioned a lot of them players already: Mellon, Mayer, McKiernan, Bloxham, Eli King. So I'm assuming would the other 5 be? The other 6, would they be the same as well?
Yeah, I reckon so. Matt Stuart Moore in goal. It's he's our first choice keeper. I think he's been around the block. I think it's his 10th, 11th season as a pro. He's got 10 or 11 clubs. Never been able to pin a first team spot regular down, but he's definitely our first choice keeper this season. He's not made any mistakes so far, and he's looked pretty solid. Flat back 4, so that'll be our captain Donald Love at right back. It'll be Joel Senior at left back. Farron Rawson was in the team. He was sent off against Harrogate, and we've got a new loanee, James Connolly from Bristol Rovers, another youngster, 21, and he looked $1 million on his debut, so I think Faz is going to have to wait his turn to get back in the side. So it'll probably be Connolly and Jacob Badeau in the centre. Jacob made his debut for Grenada, one of our international players over the last week or so.
Gills are top of the league.
Now they are. So that'll be the flat back 4, and then we'll probably play 2 holding midfielders who are Eli King on loan from Cardiff, and a bit of experience in the team in the form of Jan Songo, who just follows Derek Adams from club to club to club.
If Derek moves out, you kept saying youth, but I kept seeing Jan Songo. I thought, there's the experience. There's the experience,
yeah. And he just ticks it over, holds everything together, heads everything away. The blocker, the brick wall, the yard dog, call him what you will, in the middle of the park. And then going forward, that JJ McKiernan a bit further advanced, and then our teenage trio of Mellon in the 9, and then left and right Adam Mayer and Tom Bloxham. We have got experienced players who we've bought in, I have to say, Matt, and a couple of signings. I think when they were announced, I think everybody thought, well, they're nailed on for to be a regular first team starter, and a couple of them have barely got on the pitch. We signed Chris Stokes, for example, vastly experienced defender. I think he's about 31, played hundreds of games for Forest Green Rovers and Coventry and Kilmarnock. He's played once off the bench for about 10 minutes, and that's
So he
it.
wasn't even the squad against Salford, was he? So.
Nope. And that's how well the youth and the younger players have done. Derek's definitely settled on a clear formation and a clear strategy going forward. One thing that struck me, Matt, was I saw a graphic from Opta a few days ago. And it showed how quick we are on the break. We are a low possession team. I think everybody knows who's watched a Derek Adams team that he doesn't mind the opposition having the ball. That's very much the case. You'll have the majority of possession whether you like it or not. And we try and hit on the counter, but with pace and precision. And this Opta graphic was quite startling, actually. We were way out on top in how quickly and how prolifically we break and how fast we break as well. So if we can nick the ball away, you might be in a bit of trouble there. So yeah, low possession, hit on the break with pace, and hopefully create those chances to finally get that away win.
Be intriguing. No, will be very intriguing. Like you say, if you can turn up and you can replicate that home form on the road, then you could be a force. But like we've already mentioned, the danger is if you can't turn that around and then the home form drops off a little bit, it could be a season of struggle. But we're very early days, aren't we? It's mid-September at the end of the day. It's not going to be a season-defining game. Whatever happens come 5 o'clock Saturday afternoon. Right, Dave. Before I let you go, the dreaded score prediction.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that, man. I've been thinking about it today, and I think given our away form and given the fact that you're top of the league and everything else that's going on, I don't think a point would be a bad result. I'm sorry if that sounds slightly negative. I think for me to come on here and say we're going to finally smash our away bad run and this is the one we're going to win, I really hope it turns out that way. And it's got to change at some point, of course. But I think I would be very, very happy with a draw. I don't think there's going to be too many goals in it, given the fact that you don't score or concede many. So let's go for Gillingham 1, Morecambe 1.
Fair enough. I wouldn't expect anyone to come on and back their team to lose. Always with a sense of realism as well. Like you say, I'm going to be positive about my team as well. Again, and I'm going it off of what your away record's been like for a very long period of time. I'm going off the fact that you've not scored on the road yet this season. I'm then taking a little bit of a leap of faith with law of averages says we must score more than once in a game soon. So I'm going to go for 2-0 to Gills.
I'm going to
screenshot Macaulay Bonne and Connor Mahoney to score the goals as well.
I'm going to screenshot that, Matt, and I'll text you. I'll text you at full time, and then we'll see.
It'll be on YouTube in a couple of hours. There's no getting out of it. No, it has all the makings of being another. Like we said on your podcast the other day, it'd be two teams that are honest and hardworking and trying to win the football match. The quality might not always be great, but I don't think that the effort can ever be faulted from both groups of players, and it'll be an interesting watch for sure. Dave, I think
in our from our point of view, Matt, I think we're quite unique in terms of our makeup of our squad because of our financial situations. We've had to get in who we've got in because of our limited funds and because of the uncertainty surrounding how much money we had in the playing budget. We can only offer 1-year deals and loans and things like that, and of course that limits your market considerably, doesn't it? If you can only offer somebody a 1-year contract and somebody in a very similar position can offer the same money in a 2-year deal, there's only one place where that player is probably going to go. Yeah. So it has limited our market, but I think we've accrued very shrewdly, very wisely. Greg Strong, our head of recruitment, I think has done a phenomenal job really in getting the players through the door who he has. But I think our model of trusting in youth and letting them just go for it and hoping that that's going to pay dividends, I think is probably the way we're going to go for the rest of the season. And that's probably quite unique for a lot of the teams in League Two, really, who perhaps would go for a little bit more experience. So fingers crossed it's going to pay dividends. I think if we turn up on Saturday, Matt, you should be quite impressed with a good number of our players, hopefully. If we play like we played against Mansfield in our first away game, then there's only going to be one result, unfortunately. But fingers crossed it's the opposite.
And I suppose that trusting in the youth is similar to what we've spoken about with the away form, isn't it? It could go one of two ways. It's exciting because you're trusting the youngsters. And if they fly and play with no fear, then you could have a very good season. But it'll be how they react if there's a poor run of form out, how they then try and get themselves out of that rut trot could be a concern if they struggle. And that's when you're going to need your Songos and that type of players to really step up and put an arm around them, so to speak, and get them through it. But yeah, exciting times for both teams. Not exciting times for Gills in terms of our games. They're very low scoring generally, but that has to change. And I think it will, because I think the squad's too good for it to continue with us either conceding and losing games and not scoring, or just winning by 1-0. I'm hoping it's going to be this Saturday where we can pinch a couple and stay top of the league. But it'll be a very exciting game, very interesting game, very intriguing game. Dave, as always, it's been a real pleasure, mate. Thank you for coming on and spending time talking to me. Look forward to seeing you properly on Saturday.
You can buy me a Diet Coke before the game, Matt. How's that sound?
All right, well, I'm sure I can stretch to it. I'll have to remember my card because I drive, so I never actually have to do the drinks. So I'll remember to bring some sort of payment facility. If not, I'll get my mate to buy you one. How's that for a deal?
Oh, that's all right. I thought you might have a tab set up or all the stuff you do for the club, Matt, but clearly not. Clearly not.
No.
What's going on?
No. That's only they've only started liking me in the last few months since.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Since the former owner slipped into the background. Right. On that note, Gills fans and Morecambe fans, if you're still watching, thank you for watching. Please continue to do all that you do supporting the channel, liking, subscribing, retweeting, sharing, commenting, arguing, disagreeing, abusing me. I don't mind. Like I say, as long as it's done the right way. Aside from the abusing, I'm not sure you can do that the right way. We appreciate it. 2,732 subscribers now. Phenomenal. Thank you very much. We will be back Saturday afternoon for a match day live. You might even see this gentleman's face on before the game as well. And then it'll be myself, Boz, and whoever else wants to come and join us on duty before, during and after the game. Enjoy the rest of your week. The weekend is nearly upon us. And up the Gills.